Kia.
In 2001, Las Vegas Metro Police detectives were tasked with solving a truly unusual crime. A man was found beaten to death and had his genitals cut off. An 18-year-old girl was convicted of the brutal murder in 2002, but the Nevada Supreme Court stepped in on her behalf.
Fox 5's Cindy Lundeberg has the second part of her investigation, guilty until proven innocent. We do want to warn you, some parts of the story are disturbing.
Kirstin Blaise Lobato was convicted in the killing of a homeless man, and in December 2005, she was freed. But the question everyone wondered was for how long?
This is her after her first trial.
While waiting for her second trial, Kirstin Blaise Lobato lived with Michelle Revelle.
And then there's a bunch of boxes that were here, all hers.
Who she calls her adoptive mother.
It was so wonderful to have her out and to take her shopping and let her, she didn't want anything blue, because that's what they wear in prison.
Lobato's 2002 conviction was overturned by the Nevada Supreme Court. Justices found that Judge Valerie Vega made errors that deprived Lobato of a fair trial. Mainly, they found Lobato's lawyers should have been able to cross-examine the jailhouse snitch the prosecution presented. Lobato's lawyers were able to prove that the woman, Corinda Martin, told prosecutors she would testify but wanted to be released early from prison.
She would do whatever it took to get out of jail. She would lie to her sentencing court. She would lie to this court. Whatever it took to get out.
Lobato's second trial begins September 11th, 2006, and she is again assigned Judge Vega for the case.
Session Honorable Valerie J. Vega, presiding.
The law in the state of Nevada requires that the judge who did the first trial do the second trial if it's been reversed by the Supreme Court. That's the law.
When you get it wrong in the first trial, you shouldn't go back to the same judge, because now the judge has got an attitude problem, the prosecutor's got an attitude problem.
The record shall reflect that we're resuming trial in State versus Lobato under case number C-177.
Heading into trial, Lobato's defense gathered a lot of new evidence. They found 14 witnesses placing her in Panaca the night of the murder. They found pubic hair that was not Lobato's or the victim's at the crime scene, and they maintained that Lobato's attack in May, in which she admitted to stabbing a man in the groin, had nothing to do with Bailey's murder.
In the FBI, I was a supervisor.
Steve Moore, a former FBI agent with more than 25 years of experience and thousands of murder cases under his belt, heard about Lobato's trial and wanted to get involved.
At the crime scene, the body was covered up by boxes. And guess what was on those boxes? Footprints, male footprints in the victim's blood.
The prosecution relied heavily on the testimony of Laura Johnson, a probation officer in Lobato's hometown of Panaca. She became involved in the trial after calling Metro Police about Lobato's attack in May. We did try to contact Johnson, but we were unsuccessful.
And what's the exhibit that you're looking at now?
As for physical evidence against Lobato, they chalked that up to a messy crime scene.
At some crime scenes, you find nothing to do with the perpetrator, do you?
Duran Bailey was found beaten to death in a trash enclosure at the Nevada State Bank, and he was stabbed and he had his penis completely cut off. The state reiterated multiple times that it was too coincidental that two different men could both have their penises cut within 6 weeks of each other.
I figured that everything would come out in the wash. I was like, it's not me, that everything is going to work out because I believed in the system.
I didn't think anybody would miss somebody like that.
Prosecutors also relied heavily on Blaise's statements about her own attack, which they said was a confession to the murder.
I think I was trying to cut it off, but I don't know if I actually did.
Here is then Detective Thomas Thowson on the stand.
As we were walking out, her mother had come home. Blaise spoke with her mother in front of us and said something to the effect that she told her she had done something, she did what she did, and now she has to pay for it.
During the first trial, Detective Thomas Towson testified he made calls to emergency rooms and urologists in the Las Vegas area to verify Lobato's story about her attack. During the second trial, he testified he had his secretary make those phone calls. Fox 5 called Las Vegas Metro Police Department, and they said detectives do not get secretaries, nor have they ever.
Detective Towson said things that could not be backed up by his investigative report. Let me say that carefully. He said things that I can find no evidence for, and that I frankly doubt, personally, ever happened. He said in court that he had checked the hospitals. He had checked all the people who might have treated him. To do that investigation would have taken him days, if not weeks. I spent days or weeks checking every doctor in the area. I would have put that in file, and you know what? It would have been about that thick.
Kirstin Blaise Lobato is again convicted of the crime. This time, Lobato was found guilty of manslaughter and sexual penetration with a dead corpse.
It's something that I try very hard not to think about and not to address at all because it's so overwhelming.
There's no way to adequately describe how betrayed you feel.
Lobato's friends and family said the second conviction was even more difficult than the first one.
My daughter's been in prison now for 15 years for something that she didn't commit, and a murderer is running around out there because these guys didn't do their job.
But they never gave up hope that one day she would be let out.
This is her habeas petition.
In the habeas corpus petition, Lobato's legal team presents 24 grounds of new evidence. The most interesting piece of new information comes from Stephen King. King's girlfriend, Diane Parker, was raped by Duran Bailey a week before Bailey was found dead.
As an investigator, I cannot understand why the investigation of the rape of Diane Parker, the motive to go after Duran Bailey was not further investigated.
Lobato filed her motion with the Nevada Supreme Court in 2010, and they are still waiting for an answer.
Are they running out the clock? You better believe they are.
15 years after the crime, vital pieces of DNA have still yet to be tested.
There were also cigarette butts on top of the body, which means it wasn't, him. He was already dead. And there's going to be saliva on those. There's going to be DNA. And we begged them to test the DNA, and they wouldn't.
These are powerful people who, if you end up saying at the end of the day, you really mess this up, you may have done things that were not on the up and up, and you may have done things that were frankly shady when prosecuting this woman. That ruins careers.
The Innocence Project, based in New York, is also working on Lobato's case, and they have even offered to pay for the DNA testing.
If the results show the right person was convicted, we'll be done.
Lobato supporters also maintain the real killer or killers are still out there, and that's the most concerning part of all. Fox 5 used a private investigator to track down one of the men who, according to police reports, threatened Bailey before his death, but we were unable to speak to him.
I want every single thing tested. And you know why? Because there was a killer who wasn't a 5'5" waif. It wasn't her.
So I would say, don't listen to me. Don't listen to anyone else. Look at the evidence and form your own opinion because the facts speak for themselves.
Blaise is set to be released in 2021, and her family says until that day, they are frozen in time.
You know what we do on our vacations? We go visit our daughter in prison. That's what we do on our vacations. Yeah. And it's freaking horrible. I would rather be doing anything than that.
The habeas corpus petition filed by Kirstin Blaise Lobato and her lawyers has sat in front of the Nevada Supreme Court since 2010. Her lawyers tell me they hope this means they're actually reviewing the evidence. However, Clark County says they still will not be testing the DNA from this case. Cindy Lundeberg, Fox 5 News, local Las Vegas.
225,000 people signed an online petition asking District Attorney Steve Wolfson to test the DNA from this case, including the gum, the cigarettes, and semen found inside the victim. Wolfson declined Fox 5's request to appear on camera for this story.
Fox 5 also reached out to the detectives on the case. The prosecutors and the judge, Valerie Vega, they all denied multiple requests to be interviewed.